Hi guys, this is Hero. How's everyone doing today? So today I'm going over Saturn's progressive transit in the sign of Aquarius. Okay, so this occurs between November 15th and March 29th, roughly. So it's roughly a little less than 4.5 months. Okay, and for those of you guys who haven't known, like the beginning of this year of 2024, Saturn was forward in Aquarius, and then since the end of June, it's been backwards. Both of those I made videos on, I think. And then now it's going forward again, right? And whenever a planet does this in one sign, it's very important. Now, Saturn, because it moves so slow, it does this in every sign, possibly multiple times, because that's just how it is, right? It moves so slow that it needs to kind of just milk its karmic nature, just needs to milk everything it needs to out of that sign. But Saturn also here is in its own sign, right? Its own sign of Aquarius, its own main sign, right? So what does this mean, right? So I'm going to be discussing this video, like I said, the 4.5 months until it enters Pisces, right? Now, this whole time, it is pretty much going to be in the nakshatra of Purva Bhadrapada, right? Now, that nakshatra is owned by Jupiter. Now, this is like the final third of the Aquarius sign, right? This is like, I said this in my retrograde video because it's literally going backwards in around the same range, but this is like the holy grail of your karma, right? So for Saturn to go forward and backward and forward, all at this little last 10-degree area of Aquarius is very, very significant, right? This, if you've ever wondered what's your life purpose, what you should be doing, all this kind of stuff, this zone can help you a lot in that, right? So what you need to do is you need to kind of go back and reflect in your life, right? Especially if you've been privileged enough to run a Shani Dasha at some point, right? Either Maha Antar or Pratyantar, but even if you didn't, it's okay because this transit is just too strong to somehow not affect you in some way, right? There has been something going on in the major areas of your life that until the beginning of the year till about end of June, you were operating in one way, and then from July till now, you were kind of operating in another way, right? And I'll give you some very specific examples in a second. And then now you're kind of going to tie it together and leave with it, right? Let me give you a quick example, right? I'll give you a quick personal example. The beginning of this year, right? I'm pretty active, frequent at the gym, right? So at the beginning of this year, I was very, very, very cognizant about injuries, right? Because I've been working hard. I've been getting pretty big and stuff like that. So, but your body can only take so much, right? Especially with my Gujarati genetics, right? So I've kind of been Saturn has made me very cognizant about injuries, right? Through the first half of this year. Now, when the retrograde started, I'm not going to say I wasn't cognizant, but I kind of realized, hey, look, I'm at a very high place, right? I can lift quite a bit of weight in all my main compound movements. But in order to really get to the next level, you got to really push, right? You got to either want it or you don't. And there's going to be a risk of injury, right? So I was kind of, pushing myself again. And then now I'm kind of tying the two together, right? So I'm like, hey, look, I can still push myself, but without risking injury. Pushing myself doesn't necessarily mean I have to go, balls to the wall and do the most amount of weight I can, right? Or do the most amount of reps, right? Maybe I can do slower reps or like when I'm pushing or, when I'm contracting back, slow it down, right? Other ways to stimulate the muscle that are not as injury prone, right? So this is just one example, right? Or let's just say another example, right? Actually, before I get to another example, let me not go on this tangent here. I can go on this tangent all day. But the point I'm trying to make is so Shani has already been through the zone one time, right? It figured some things out that are beneficial for your long term, right? It's with the things that are important to you, right? Which makes sense in this very critical zone here. Then going back, it's kind of doing things to kind of get you to break out of that mindset a little bit, right? Now, both are equally important, right? You don't want to get glued to either one, right? I don't want to get glued to the super safe route, and I don't want to get glued to the super aggressive route, right? But what you need to do is you kind of need to learn from this and go forward. You need to learn from both, right? You've already been here, right? Then you had to go back, right? And now you're kind of closing it out, right? So it's like, okay, I've already kind of been through this once, another time in a different perspective. Imagine you're on like a boat, right? And you're going, let's just say you're going to Antarctica, right? There's a certain strategy you'll have when going into Antarctica, right? And then let's just say you're coming back, right? There's certain things you'll also figure out on the way back, right? And it's going to be a little bit different on the way back. But if you have to go there again, which Sani is now, there is going to be a lot of wisdom now going in, right? Like, I'll give you an example. This is all like a hypothetical, right? This boat, I've now obviously never researched on how to take a boat to Antarctica. But let's just say I'm very focused on like the climate and the strong winds and the cold and everything going in, right? So I'm super, super, super safe going in, right? Now, on the way back, I'm like, dude, in order to get out of this Antarctica, this glacier place, I can't be so safe, right? I'm gonna, like, the waves are too strong or whatever. I have to be more aggressive, right? And I kind of learned that from before, right? On my way in, maybe I had some situation where I'm like, man, I wish I was a little bit more aggressive, right? So I'm a little bit more aggressive coming out of Antarctica, right? Now going in, I kind of have the wisdom of both to just kind of get in there and do my thing, right? Now, an example I can also spontaneously tie this to for you, let's just say a relationship, right? This may or may not have happened to you, but something like this has happened to you, right? But I'm not saying it has to be relationships. I'm not saying it could be the complete opposite, right? And I'll give you an example, right? So, okay, let's just say with relationships, right? Let's just say at the beginning of this year, you were trying to pursue someone and you were very, very safe, right? And then you were like, hey, you know what? I can't be this safe anymore. You know, I'm just gonna go head over here and just dive into this person, right? Boom. But then now you realize, hey, look, I need to chill. And then, you know, it's okay to, you know, pursue your desires and things like that, right? But it's also okay to, you know, chill a little bit, right? And, you know, also balance it out, right? But it could not have been in this order for you, right? See, Sani is very personal for person to person. It could have been the opposite. It could have been, hey, you were very aggressive at the beginning of this year when Sani was, you know, progressive. And then when it was retrograde, it was trying to guide you to, hey, you know, we need to chill. And then now it's kind of balancing them out, right? The point is, right now, it's kind of balancing them out, right? And you have to look, right? You have to really think also a little bit, right? It could have been in your work, right? Let's just say you were a little bit passive about some opportunities you were given at the beginning, and then all of a sudden you were like, hey, I'm going go mode, right? And then now you're a little burnt out. Maybe your management is taking advantage of you or something like that. Now you're like, hey, look, we need to do some stuff, right? But let's not, you know, work every night and on the weekends and things like that. But let's also, you know, make sure our day is productive and things like that, right? So I hope you guys kind of get what I'm saying here, right? And I could kind of, you know, bullshit and say some try to predict some very extremely specific examples of how this could or could not have applied to your personal life. I gave a bunch of hypotheticals, right? But I'm not going to do that, right? Just to sound all fancy and things like that. I want you guys to kind of think a little bit for yourself and see how this could have applied to you, right? Somehow, right? This is how you're going to learn, right? If I just tell you, that's not going to be good, right? But this can apply in a multitude of different ways, right? Regardless, I'm not going to say regardless of the houses and stuff, but like at some level, this is the end of Aquarius, which ties into the things that like you really care about, okay, or that are really at a core level, like your karma be like the last end zone of your karma, right? Like that stuff that matters. I don't know if you've ever seen an American football field, but the end zone is all that matters, right? It doesn't matter if you make it the whole way. You need to get there in order to get the points, right? It's kind of like you can kind of think of that about that like that here, right? So yeah, yeah. So at some level, it's going to be the stuff that matters, which is why I kind of mentioned the job, my own fitness, possible, relationship of yours or whatever. Yeah, or even, these are the main things, right? Or even like religion, right? Let's just say you were like, I'm just throwing out hypotheticals, right? Because a lot of us are not, and this is not, I'm not saying this in a condescending way. I'm just saying this in some other way that we might not be aware of how this may apply, right? We just kind of focus on like, the stuff that society tells us to focus on, like, which is exactly what I spoke about here, right? Your job and relationship and things like that. But there are other areas like religion. Let's just say you're going like and I'm also only giving the example of like being super aggressive and then super passive, right? There's other ways this can kind of display itself, right? Which you kind of also need to go inside. All right, just think a little bit and, turn the TV off and, put the phone down and just, think for a few minutes how this possibly could have applied to you, right? And this may be a little bit more prevalent as we approach the actual progressive date, right? Because when it's stationary, it's really like, it's still, it's like, and when things are still, you're a lot more aware, right? Like you can see through still water, right? So when Saturn is still in November 15th, so around the range of November 15th, that's the closer you are to that date, that's the more you're going to be aware of about that, right? So I think November 15th is a Friday, and I actually realized I'm actually probably visiting one of my most spiritual friends then, and we're going on a little hiking trip. So unintentionally, this is happening. So this is a great time also to be very aware, right, of this kind of stuff, right? So around the 15th, it doesn't have to be on the 15th, right? It doesn't even have to be the day before, but I'm just saying we're a couple weeks out, right? And you can still start now, but just try to get more and more aware of it, right? And this will help you out, okay? But I think that's it for this video. I'm already a little past 12 minutes. So that's it for this video. If you have any questions or comments, as usual, you can let me know via comment section or email. Email's in my bio. As usual, thank you all very, very much for watching. Take care. Talk to you guys later.